for joining us again. Look, Maddie was unavailable, so we've had to call an audible for this week's episode, which was supposed to be Flash Gordon, but we will get to that next week. So Jared and I, we've decided to, do our usual sort of stick, Jared, and do a bit of mucking around.
Yeah, a bit of muckraking, mate.
Bit of muckraking. What we've decided to do is an episode on the worst films in our mind from our favourite actors.
Yeah.
Right?
Obviously, we
Some
couldn't
of them
do...
are our favourites. Some of them are our whipping boys.
Yeah, our favourite punching bags. But, obviously we couldn't touch Flash Gordon without Matty. The man is just super excited to talk about it, so...
Yeah, it was his choice, so we just sort of held back a week on Flash Gordon. All right, so basically the gist of this one, Jared, is we're going to go through some of our favourite actors.
Yep. We're
going to put forward what we believe is their worst film.
Yeah.
And we're just going to top it off with a little bit of, the Rotten Tomatoes percentage, the letterbox scores for the film. I've got a little bit of box office info.
Yeah, I mean, because why
reviews.
would we want to give these people that we love to watch their films, why would we want to give them any credit? I mean, it's no fun to talk about the good stuff that they do, so let's just dive into the deep end.
Let's rip them a new asshole.
Yeah.
Look, we're going to get off on a front foot here, Jared. I believe you went and saw a film with this particular man today.
I did.
Which may end up in this discussion, Jared. But the first cab off the rank is one Bruce Willis. Now, I've made it very well known that I'm a big fan of his films. Got a lot of films that I really, really like.
Yeah, but he also does have a lot of films that were candidates for this conversation.
Correct. Recently, he has just become a fucking slumlord. The guy is just making shit.
He is.
I posited this a little while back, Jared, that he's kind of in semi-retirement. He just seems to be taking projects where it seems like he has to shoot for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Pick up a couple of $1 million a paycheck, and that's it.
Yep, he's cashing them checks.
He's putting in as minimal effort.
Yeah. And, I mean, he had a number of films to choose from that had a Rotten Tomatoes score of 0.
I know.
So,
unfortunately, I have not seen any of them.
No, I hadn't seen all of them. But the one that I've picked doesn't have a 0. So that tells you that tells you where the bloke is at.
The calibre of some of the shit he's been in.
Yeah.
Recently. Yeah, he's a man who seems to be comfortable with a pretty simple lifestyle of making shit movies.
He's given up on reading good scripts. I think he'll just take anything that comes his way as long as he reads the monetary offer, doesn't even fucking bother with the script. I'll guarantee it.
No. And he's not like Nicolas Cage, who has this kind of weird... If he makes absolute shit, and Cage is also wallowing. Yeah. But he's got this kind of weird intensity about him.
Yeah, and he still comes across some interesting things here and there. But Nicholas also had reasons why he had to take those movies. I don't think Bruce did.
No. As I said, I think Bruce's reason is he wants to retire, but he's just making films that are easy to do. He can punch out 4 or 5 of them in a year and basically do about 40 days' work.
Yeah, he wants to retire, but he's got adult children who need money as well. So
perhaps he's got half a dozen mortgages to pay. I don't know. Sell a fucking house or two, Bruce, and retire comfortably.
Yep.
Maybe he's just hanging around, Jared, for that final John McClane film.
Possibly.
Well, in his current state of acting, I would rather that he didn't come back for one more John McClane film.
Yeah, I'd require an incentive-based contract if he came back on as John McClane, and one incentive would be you need to actually give an effort in your acting performance.
Yeah.
We need to come up with a measure.
Up, Bruce.
Yeah. You cannot just roll out of your trailer fresh off a nap and expect to perform, Bruce.
No. No, mate, you have to come out and give your all. Maybe he's just storing it up.
I don't know.
He's currently storing up his acting skills for the final McLean film, and then he's just going to retire.
I can only hope.
So do I. I can only hope that he's willing. But what was the film? You said this is his worst film, correct? And what is it?
Okay, well, I had two, but I am going to mention the one that I saw today. Obviously, recency bias, but Cosmic Sin. I just sat through that in the cinema. Currently, it's Rotten Tomatoes at 7%, and Letterboxd it's 1.4 out of 5.
1.4? Jesus.
But it was awful. It was just awful. It's one of these ones where, I mean, it seemed to take some cues from like video games almost in some of the costume design and design of the sets, and some of that was all right. Like, I didn't mind. They had this setting of, it's far in the future and we're on different planets and whatever, but they had things like a bar. So Bruce is drinking in a bar, but the jukebox actually plays like holographic performances of people and things like that. So I was like, okay, well, we're on some ground that I can get behind here. I don't mind this tone and setting, but bugging me, it was so fucking boring, and the bloody plot threads that just seemed to just get left and then would come back briefly. And Frankie Grillo, talk about underused. Fuck me dead. They did him dirty in this one too. I believe it was, I think it's Tommy Lee and Pamela Anderson's son in there. Uneven, I would describe
the old block, is it?
Yeah.
A giant cock, no.
Yeah. As I said, I'd describe it as uneven, but it was just, it was boring.
Now, can you put a number on the number of days Bruce would have been on set?
Look, he was in it
quite a bit. Or was he there the whole time?
He was in it quite a bit, but I'd say he knocked it down to half the shooting days. He could have got it done in. But yeah, I'll just go through a couple of the quotes that I found on Rotten Tomatoes and Letterboxd. I didn't actually get who all these were from, but they are all on the Rotten Tomatoes and Letterboxd page, so you can check out the people that put these forward. But some of the descriptions from reviews might leave us with some questions about the movie's discomforting moral framework, but the movie is thankfully too dull to think too much about that. Bruce gives the same half-awake performance as in many other recent B-movie roles, only this time clad in clunky space armour. I would like to remind that person he has given a B-movie performance in Armageddon, where he was also clad in clunky space armour. But
correct.
Yeah, a couple from...
Yeah, but his fucking eyes were open in Armageddon.
Well, true, yeah. He was actually attempting.
He was at least... I mean, he phoned it in, but back then he was good enough to phone in shit and it was all right.
A couple from Letterboxd, which I really enjoyed. There's no way even Bruno watches the movie that he turns up in anymore. And also, it would be a cosmic sin to recommend this movie to anyone. So that's the kind of work we're talking about here. So we're not the only ones I'm not the only one that was disappointed with this one.
And now, what was the other one you had for him?
So the other one I had was, going by all measures, it's probably not his worst film, but personal disappointment. Die Hard, A Good Day to Die Hard, for sure.
Yes.
It was 14 on Rotten Tomatoes, Letterboxd a 1.9. And I couldn't sum it up better than Richard Roper. His quote was, "What a disappointment."
Yes.
So that was kind of more a personal sort of thing, given that even Die Hard 4 I thought was a decent movie. And the drop between that and Die Hard 5 was just it was just such a bad movie.
Yeah, it was a long drop off.
I briefly considered The Colour of Night, but I mean, it had some things that I did like, so I couldn't quite.
I only saw half of it because I closed my eyes during the mid-section and never really came back to it.
Right. Yeah.
Something floated into frame, and I turned away.
Yeah, okay.
My personal worst for Bruce, and I'm sure there's plenty of, and as I will preface this by saying I have not seen his last 5 years worth of manure, but it's Last Man Standing from 1997 or 96. I remember going to the cinema, and this was right in the meat of, Bruce was still making some really good films around that period.
Yeah, not this one.
I think Colour of Night may have been around this time.
Yeah,
so
I think that was about 94.
I might be, paraphrasing here, but it was a real fucking boring, nothing much film. I mean, it's directed by Walter Hill as well. Like, it actually had some pedigree. And Bruce doesn't give a bad performance, and the cast isn't too bad, but the movie is just so boring. And it got 37% on Rotten Tomatoes. I would have gone lower.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised. I would have thought 20%. 2.9 on Letterboxd. And for some box office numbers, Jared, 47 million worldwide on a 67 million budget. 20 million under.
Yeah.
Maybe you make some money off DVD sales, perhaps.
That's the sort of investment I'd make, mate.
Yeah.
Not a savvy Hollywood producer.
No. So, all round, I was very unimpressed with this film. I've never seen it since. Even something like Hudson Hawk, because a lot of people would have Hudson Hawk as one of his worst. Hudson Hawk's dumb as dog shit and strange. It doesn't make much sense, but it's entertaining. Yeah. I remember being entertained by it.
Hudson Hawk is in the realm of you can get a couple of laughs at some of the logic and all that sort of stuff out of it. These ones that we talked about, not so much.
No, not at all. Last Man Standing has no real entertainment value. And the review I found from Roger Ebert basically said, Last Man Standing is a desperately cheerless film.
Yep.
And well summed up, Roger.
Succinct, to the point.
All right. That's Bruce. That's Bruce's, worst in our mind. Mm-hmm. On to Arnie. Well, what did you have on Arnie's worst film?
Well, I don't think this is going to be any surprise at all, but being a Batman fan, I couldn't go past Batman and Robin. Rotten Tomatoes, 11%. Letterboxd, again, surprising me with a 1.8. Just such a terrible movie. And Arnie, in my opinion, look, I don't know if Arnie, looking at the rest of the film, I don't think Arnie was making this performance comedic of his own volition. He wasn't making the decisions to make it such a shit performance. But the whole bit of work, Arnie just comes out smelling the worst out of everyone, I think. Yeah. And especially for me, given that I was one of these, I'm one of these people that enjoyed the Batman animated series that had just successfully reinvented Mr. Freeze with a fucking exceptional storyline full of pathos and just really good stuff that the movie took and just proceeded to trample all over. So, yeah, I got real ill feelings towards this one.
Yeah.
And Arnie, sometimes I wake up in cold sweats about Arnie singing He's Mr. White Christmas and all this sort of shit. So, it's not good. Not good for me. A couple of the quotes that I found. No. It's honestly a miracle that anyone was ever willing to see a Batman movie again after this film. And a very straightforward one from Letterboxd, spectacularly shite.
That is just spot on.
Yep.
I mean, no wonder Christopher Nolan waited fucking, 12, 13 years?
Yeah.
Before Batman returned. Yep. Because, the stink coming off it, you can smell for years.
Yeah. Well, imagine.
And Arnie is just terrible.
He is terrible. Batman's been popular at this point for over 80 years. And this film was probably responsible for sinking the character to, arguably its lowest low.
I think it definitely its lowest low.
So, yeah, I'm holding Arnie somewhat responsible for that.
Yeah, very much so. Now, I've got one here that, again, it hasn't kept me in cold sweats, Jared, but I actively dislike this film. And from the get-go, I was like, I was a bit like Gibbo in Rambo Last Blood. It's Collateral Damage from 2002.
Mm.
Now, this has actually a bit of history because I believe it was supposed to come out pre 9/11, but because it involves a bomb and an explosion in a large public area or in a building in America, they pushed it back. And I remember seeing it because Arnie was still clinging, I think, to some form of being sort of, a big star who could guarantee box office at that time.
Yep.
Although I believe he had punched out End of Days and the Sixth Day, and they had both been a little bit underwhelming.
Yeah, it was coming in that period, similar time frame to when we spoke about Stallone having his real shitty kind of down period in his career.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember going to the cinema and seeing it, and just from minute one, I was just like, "Oh my god, this is so boring." And Arnie just sort of lumbers his way through it. I mean, it's directed by Andrew Davis, who at that stage had made The Fugitive and Under Siege. So I expected, action scenes will be red hot.
Mm.
This bloke knows how to get it done.
Yep.
They're subpar.
Yeah.
And look, Rotten Tomatoes, 19%, spot on. Letterboxd 2.4.
Shit.
And the box office was $78 million worldwide on an $85 million budget. And that was the period where Arnie was making $20 million a picture.
Yeah.
So it's another loser from him. And I think that kind of spot, I believe he went on to politics not long after that.
Yep. Wise choice.
And the review I got from Empire states that the plot is laughably bad and the action is not much better.
Hmm. Yeah, so, that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair. It's one that really I would avoid. If someone said to me, let's chuck on Collateral Damage, no, let's not. Let's put on Jingle All the Way.
Well, mate, I'm sure at some point you will mention it to be covered. Probably in a couple of weeks' time when you think, oh, shit, we talked about Collateral Damage and I haven't watched it in a while. Maybe we should do an episode on it.
Look, we will get to it, I'm sure.
Yeah, don't make promises you can't keep.
Because I haven't seen it in 20 years.
Yeah. So you've just said you won't watch it again, but I reckon it'll happen in the next 6 months.
No, I didn't say I wouldn't watch it again. I said I avoid it. Like, you're sitting around, you're swiping through Netflix or Stan, and you're looking for just something to watch. If I came across Collateral Damage, I would quickly skip over it off the chest.
Yeah.
So it's not one that I seek out. But for us as podcasters, maybe it's worth revisiting. I'd like to put Gibbo through it.
You're talking yourself into it. I can hear it.
I am.
This is how this conversation
in a couple of weeks' time. I go round in circles, now I come back and go, yeah, all right, we'll watch it.
Yeah, that's it. This is exactly how it starts.
All right, on to Sly. Because we laid the slipper into Sly at the end of last episode where we talked about I believe I coined it 10 years of absolute shit.
Yeah, yep.
But my Sly one is from his 80s output.
Ooh.
His worst that I have seen, because remember there's a couple there that I probably haven't seen that I believe are worse.
Yep, there's a couple of
bad
ones.
Over the top.
Ooh, okay.
Even by sort of bad film standards, I can't help but just laugh and laugh and laugh. I mean, quite frankly, it's a comedy.
Yeah. Okay.
It is a comedy. I mean, everything about it reeks of kind of like arm wrestling Rocky. It's just like... Only the Cannon Group could think that you can put arm wrestling on screen and make it exciting.
Yeah, that's true.
And I do remember reading some trivia where Sly turned it down repeatedly, but every single time he was asked, they'd add an extra $2.5 million to his paycheck. And eventually he had no choice. He had to take it.
That's right. I mean, if you get an amount that's going to set you up for the next 10 years of failed box office efforts, then you can't say no, can you?
Yeah, I mean, I think he got $12.5 million for it.
Yeah, which at that time is
out of a $25 million budget.
At that time in the 1980s, that is just I mean, you cannot turn that down.
Yeah. And I think he probably took a pass at the script, but even then he probably thought, oh shit, this is as bad as it can get.
Can't salvage it.
So the box office was 16 million worldwide. The budget was 25 million, which half of which was Stallone's paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Rotten Tomatoes has it at 30%.
I saw that.
Which
noticed
surprises me greatly.
Yeah.
That's one of the better ones out here. And Letterboxd at 2.8. And I had a TV guide review that stated arm wrestling, truck driving, weird weightlifting, and tear-jerking are the stuff of this predictable Stallone vehicle.
Fair enough again from them.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how you feel about Over the Top.
I probably need to check it out again, but it's not my worst. So just add it to the list before we move on. Just chuck that on the list of we'll cover shortly.
Of course. Well, remember I tried to squeeze this in there a couple of weeks ago.
I know. I was all for it. But so I passed over things like that, and I also passed over probably his lowest ranked ones on Rotten Tomatoes, other than the ones I hadn't seen, such as Avenging Angelo, which I probably never will see. But I went for Detox.
You went for Detox?
I did go for Detox.
Oh.
Rotten Tomatoes was 18.
Detox isn't good, but fuck.
Letterboxd 2.4. I'll tell you why I went for Detox. It's because something like Over the Top, I can still get enjoyment out of that experience because I'm laughing at the ludicrous situations and the standard canon fare. Even something like Rambo, I get an enjoyment out of the conversations that are going to come out of it and the comparisons to the previous movie. Detox just gave me nothing. I couldn't laugh at many of the sequences other than, when we started questioning how this bloke managed to infiltrate people, a facility filled with people with high-level skills. But just watching it and having the experience of watching it, it was so dull in all aspects that I just couldn't.
Yeah. The
enjoyment level was down the bottom for me in the films that I've seen from Stallone.
Right.
Even some of the bad 90s ones, he was still in that pocket of they're trying to do these action sort of vehicles that you can get a little bit of something out of, maybe a couple of decent action scenes or chase sequences or something like that. Detox just missed on every fucking mark. It just did not hit anything for me.
Look, I hovered very close to Assassins.
Yeah.
Because I remember that was fucking real bad. In fact, I think he did a Microsoft Office video that was better. I'd say that was probably better than Avenging Angelo as well.
Possibly.
I would like to see Avenging Angelo. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah, well, there was a couple on there that I probably could go back to and maybe might come out worse. Because again, we did watch Detox a couple of weeks ago, and it stands out as one that just I didn't enjoy watching it. But when you see it surrounded on the list by things like Last Blood and Over the Top, I would watch them again before I would watch Detox easily.
Okay, that's fair.
A couple of the quotes I found, Adam. This was a running theme. I've got two here for you. The first one says, "A further nail in Sylvester Stallone's popularity coffin," and the second quote, running theme. "Surely this is it for Sylvester Stallone."
I think a lot of people were death riding Sylvester in 2002.
Well, at that point,
they were just expecting.
At that point, it was a safe bet. I mean, it was a fucking $1.25 favourite because he just finished 6 years of absolute shit. So, and he still had 3 to 4 to come after that. So at that point, you weren't really sticking your neck out.
No. Do you think he fired his agent? Or do you think he stuck with him for those 10 years? Because quite frankly, after about 4 movies in a row, I would have fired the bloke.
Yeah. Either that or he started saying, "Look, I'll read the scripts when they come. I won't leave that to you. I'll actually have a look at it."
Yeah, okay. Look, Detox, I'm surprised, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'll find when I watch Over the Top, in our future episodes, I'll probably find it more enjoyable than Detox, possibly.
Yeah, we'll get a few laughs out of it. I mean, it's like fucking Street Fighter or something, but you're arm wrestling. You got all these broad stroked sort of characters that Sly's just, bouncing around and arm wrestling. How can you not enjoy that on some level?
I mean, the thing about it that I always laughed at is how he wears that kind of like fucking sock or something on his elbow.
Compression, recovery.
Just like, fuck, mate, it looks like someone knitted a scarf and you've just wrapped it around your elbow. Just, okay, we need to get to over the top in the future episodes, and then I'll see how I feel.
Definitely.
Okay?
It's going to happen.
Jared, on to one of your favourite actors, one Vin Diesel. You've been vocal about his lack of, quality pictures.
Well,
Triple X came in for some heat.
He's on my Mount Rushmore of actors, probably.
Yep. Yeah. Now, I've got a running theme with a lot of the films I've covered, and the word usually is boring.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that I remember being extremely boring is a little picture he made in 2003 called A Man Apart.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember this film, Jared?
I remember the title, and I think I've seen it, but that probably goes towards your argument there.
Correct. It was a generic kind of revenge film involving him as a DEA agent, and I don't remember a lot about it. His wife gets killed and he turns into avenging the cartels or something. And he's trying to do some acting, I think, Vin. Failing miserably, if I remember correctly. But it's just one of those movies where, most people would have dead set forgot he made it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It just kind of came and went. It was boring as hell. Not much happens. It's not very exciting. I was this close to looking at the Chronicles of Riddick.
Mm.
But then I thought to myself, there was shitloads going on in Chronicles of Riddick. I don't know what it meant or what it was about, but it was there was things happening on the screen.
Yeah.
There is nothing happening in this.
Yep.
It's just kind of lowest ebb stuff, and it's got 11% on Rotten Tomatoes, a 2.6 on Letterboxd, $44 million box office worldwide on a $36 million budget. And that was, I think it was made roughly in the period where Diesel had made Fast and the Furious and Triple X.
Yeah.
So he was hot at the time.
Was he?
And Pitch Black, I think, had all been made before that.
Yeah.
So he was in a good place. And then he rips this crap out.
Yeah, like I said, I can't comment too much. I think I have seen the movie, but it's one of those ones that if I have, it was so boring that I just didn't bother to remember the slightest details about it.
Yeah. I can't. I remember Timothy Olyphant is in it.
Oh, shit.
But that's about it.
He should know better.
Yeah, he's sullying his good name down there, but that was pre sort of, Deadwood and things like that. Now, I found a review from something called Common Sense Media that said, pretentious, incompetent, dumb explosion movie.
Yeah.
I would probably not go as far as to say incompetent, but there's just nothing to it. And I think that if any film, especially in the action thriller genre, you are pushing shit uphill if you can't get any excitement out of it.
Yeah, definitely. Even if it's a bad script, surely you can craft a couple of exciting sequences in there somewhere. And that's when you can't. That is the cardinal sin of action movies, is just to be causing your audience to sit there going, "Oh shit, is anything going to happen?"
Cosmic Sin, I believe, might have put you in that position today.
Cosmic Sin had me in a fucking coma. I wasn't even thinking at that point.
I'll tell you what, mate. How much were the tickets?
It was a $16 effort today.
Fuck, mate. If I paid $83 for Cosmic Sin, I was fucking pissed off about Wrong Turn. Imagine how it would have been about Cosmic Sin.
Well, mate, I might have you. I might have you covered. Just on a quick tangent. I made the silly decision of telling the kids. I said I was going to take them to the movie, which was all right. The tickets were $45 for the family, so 4 tickets. But I made the decision of saying, you guys can. It was a bit of a treat night for the kids. I said, you guys can pick where we have dinner. They picked Hoyts. They wanted to eat in their seats. $150 was the end total of. Thankfully, the movie was good, but fucking hell. I was sitting there, I was crying while I was handing over the cash for the fucking pizzas and chicken nuggets and stuff. Oh.
Yeah, did you point, when you handed the cash over, did you say, are you going to cook that?
Yeah.
Are you actually going to cook it?
I was going to say.
Put some fucking flavour on it.
I was going to just, as I was handing over the cash, I was just going to say, just call Domino's, please. Just get me a Domino's.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Mate, there's a fucking Macca's 200 metres away. Just go and get me some nuggets from there.
Yeah, do something. But yeah, I was just in tears when the bill came up.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that's for 4.
It was for 4, so it was kind of in a similar ballpark to you. But I mean, I was feeding a fucking 9.
Silver lining though, Jared, you didn't get stung for parking.
That's right. I remembered that you could get free parking. But yeah, I was feeding a 9 and 7-year-old, mate, not all adults.
Yeah.
So I expected it to be somewhat reasonable, but I was wrong. Anyway, look, I'm sticking to. I've said this about Diesel a couple of times, and I think. Again, it's evidenced by what you've just said about that movie. That's par for the course for Diesel, and his best movies are the ones. His best movies, and the ones people will watch more, barring the Fast and the Furious series, are the ones where he's not on screen. Guardians of the Galaxy and the Iron Giant will be topping his list of movies that will get watched over and over again, and he's not even on. He's not on the screen. So we class Diesel as like a big time
voice actor.
Well, we class him as a big time actor, and I just think it's just a false narrative. He stumbled into the Fast and the Furious series, and got on the production side of that. So credit to the man there. And I'm okay with the route that he takes with those movies. That people want to see him, so he makes fucking 10 of the movies. I'm okay with that, but. He's just not a star to me.
So what do you got for him? What's his worst?
Well, I was going to jump into the follow-up single to Feels Like I Do, because he had one after that called Days Are Gone or something that was an absolute turd, and obviously me and you, it feels like I Do comes on at the club at some point if we're ever in a club again at this point.
I'm like, we'll be up there. Then on comes like Days Are Gone.
Give me a glow stick. Give me a whistle.
Back to the bar.
Yeah, it's I've gone with.
To say it isn't so that his second single was a turd. Off on a tangent, but fuck, I am dirty now because I really bumped up the bloke's tyres.
You called it though. You told him to wait the 6 months until the next single, and he didn't. He tried to jump straight in and just ruined it all.
Vid, listen, mate, listen. You know I know what's going on here, mate.
Yeah, you should.
But I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed the Days of Gone's not up to it.
You should be his manager.
Fingers crossed for the third single.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Maybe he'll go back to the roots with the third single and call it "Feel Like You Do" or something like that, and we'll be back on board. But yeah, I had to go for Triple X. I hate Triple X.
Triple X. Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes, 48%. I mean, fuck, get off.
48%.
Like, stop it. Give us a spell. Like, I don't know how it ends up at 48%. Letterboxd, though, it ended up at a 2.5. But yeah, that was just.
Have you seen The Return of Xander Cage?
No. I've actively avoided it, but I'm sure you're going to put it on the list to watch, so I'm sure we'll get to it shortly. But
look, we have to. We started the series. We got to finish it. I mean, Christ, I'm trembling about State of the Union.
Yeah,
let alone Xander Cage.
That's right. I think the Return of Xander Cage would be better though, because it appears like they've tried to whoever put it together has tried to look at what was getting people into action movies at the time. So obviously they got a couple of people that were in martial arts movies. They got Donnie Yen, didn't they? And I think
so.
Ruby Rose was in it. I'm not a fan of Ruby Rose as an actress, but I think they jumped on her at the similar time she was in John Wick 2. So I think they were trying to take things that were more of the time, whereas Triple X is just the worst that the 2000s has to offer. Like, they just decided we'll take James Bond and do this extreme athlete business with him, and it's just fucking, it's so bad. At least, you know, I can watch Triple X and get a bit of a laugh out of it, but God, I hate the idea of the movie. It's just so stupid. And for an action movie, that's saying something. You give me Keanu Reeves hunting down a crew of bloody Russian mafia that killed his dog, and I'm fucking all in. But you give me this premise, and it's so stupid. I hate it.
Yeah. And I remember we discussed this at length, how was so cool. Like, the whole movie reeks of this kind of, this premise is so cool. Yeah. Everyone's going to love it. You know, skating and
it was like, you know,
snowboarding and
skating
all
and
shit.
Skating and snowboarding videos are popular. Extreme games is you know, starting to generate some buzz. Tony Hawk is the biggest video game around. Let's make an action movie with all that shit. Like, it was so transparent what they were going for, but I wasn't buying it. I mean, normally I'm the first bloke in line to purchase your shit sandwich, but this time I was like, no, that one smells. I'm not eating it. So that's where I ended up with Triple X.
Give me another shit sandwich.
Yeah, that's right. I would prefer a fresher shit sandwich than this one, please.
Slightly fresher, or perhaps the shit's a little bit more solid. Because I suggest Triple X is just fucking, it's just 2 pieces of bread just coated in diarrhea.
Yeah. Yeah, it was...
it's a diarrhea sandwich.
Yeah, pretty much. So that was it for me. And the quote that I found that I was right on board with was, okay, that's it. My summer of movies has been completely pissed on. That was the quote that summed up Triple X for me.
All right. Now, on to Van Damme, Jared. He's one of the rarer ones on this list in my book who made some absolute garbage throughout almost the peak of his career.
Yeah.
And actually sort of found a little bit of a footing more recently with a little bit of kind of, I guess, comedic stuff. As he got older, he sort of stepped into some other things.
Yeah.
And I think some of it worked out really well.
You're right. He has been a garbage man for most of his career, and sort of, you know, occasionally he would get get a job that would take him off the garbage
to work at the plant.
Yeah.
Not off,
he'd get off the garbage run
off the back of the truck
for a couple of weeks, but then he wouldn't be able to last. He wouldn't be able to hang in that particular role, and he'd be back on the garbage run quick as you can look at you. But he's obviously a favourite of ours in some aspects for, you know, no matter what he was doing at that time, it was always, you could bank on what you were getting. It would be a cheap little flick, but, you know, Jean-Claude would kick some heads. There'd be a little bit of gunplay, that sort of thing. So
I guess Jean-Claude sort of knew what his lane was. Because his acting wasn't great, his physicality was his thing, that even his most boring action films from that period still had plenty of heads getting kicked in. He wasn't stretching or trying to stretch like your Stallones.
No, that's right. And he
looking
wasn't
for different projects, you know, like Detox.
He wasn't trying to save groups of people like Steven Seagal was, and he wasn't crying over the quality of scripts that he himself had written and things like that. He just knew where his lane was, and I love him for that.
What was his worst, though, in your mind?
Well, again, I think it's going to be pretty obvious after our Mortal Kombat discussion a couple of episodes ago. Being a bit of a kid of the arcades at that period of time, it's got to be Street Fighter. Yeah. Has to be. Street Fighter, Rotten Tomatoes, 10%. Letterboxd with an almost dazzling 2 for Street Fighter. But yeah, to miss the mark so badly. I mean, you are marketing to a group of people who are turning up for a game that is round after round of fight.
Yes.
And you decide, we need to change characters. We need to have Van Damme in the movie, but then not fighting as much as he should be. Raul Julia was a shining light in there, but the poor bugger was just about dead. But just to miss the mark so badly with again an established storyline, it was just in this time when any video game property that they made just had to be rewritten. It had to be given. It had to be given over to somebody who had no interest in the game and probably never played it, and then rewritten to within a fucking inch of its life until it was unrecognisable. I mean, I remember. I think my old man took me to see this at Centre Cinema. That's how fucking desperate I was to see it, that we went to Centre Cinema when no bastard was going to Centre Cinema unless you were trying to look for a bloody a subtitled European film that you couldn't see anywhere else.
Yeah.
So we ducked into Centre Cinema and watched this, and even at that age, I was just like, what is this? I vividly recall the doctor that turns out to be Dal Sim and doesn't look like Dal Sim until the fire fucking singes his hair off, and I was just sitting there going, what? Like, why? Why did they do this? So, yeah.
The most disappointing thing about that, Jared, is written by the bloke who wrote Die Hard, for Christ's sake.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, this bloke could write a script.
Yeah, well, that's
an action script.
That's it. And I think it just reeks of, although it's a plain and simple storyline, why don't you take Street Fighter and turn it into like an Enter the Dragon style setup with a little bit of the...
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be like that. Obviously, Street Fighter was a little bit different. It was different settings around the world. But, I mean, shit. What you came up with was almost the worst possible thing you could have come up with to get people just fighting each other in different locations. Like, that's all we were turning up for. So, yeah. Talk about missing the mark. And the quote that sums it up for me is, again, quite succinct, offensive and annoying.
Ah.
So that was it for me.
Straight down the line.
Yep.
Yeah. Look, as I said before, written by the guy who wrote Die Hard, who I expected more from. It's a bit like when you watch Rollerball and you realise it's directed by John McTiernan.
Yeah, that's right.
What?
That's it.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, fuck. What happened
him? Oh, God. I remember watching Rollerball in the cinema with you, I believe. And it wasn't long before we were kind of sitting there going, yeah, this is going pear-shaped. And then we got to that motorcycle chase that was shot in, like, night vision.
Night vision.
Yeah, and we were just kind of like, oh, fuck.
Look, I think things were going pear-shaped when Chris Klein walked onto screen as the fucking hero. I remember thinking, oh, yeah, fucking Casanova's a hero now.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, never a good sign.
No. At least he wasn't singing.
Now, I'm going to go slightly off tangent here. I don't think he can go past 1997's Double Team.
But I mean, surely that that premise has legs. I mean, twin Van Dams.
No, that's Double Impact. You got it wrong.
Oh shit! Sorry, Double Team. Dennis Rodman.
Double Team.
That's right.
It's a mixture of a coked up Van Damme, Dennis Rodman, and fucking Mickey Rourke as the villain.
Don't tell me Don't tell me Dennis Rodman wasn't coked up either. I mean, you did watch The Last Dance. We always knew that he had his issues, but then so.
I mean, it is just an absolute shit show.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it, and I agree with you. Initially, I thought Double Team. Is that the one where he plays twins?
Yeah.
No. Double Impact, although bad, we kind of got some enjoyment out of it when we ran it for the podcast.
And I remember, when I would hire Double Impact at the video store, I'd think to myself, good enough for Jackie Chan, good enough for Van Damme. So
exactly. But when you put Dennis Rodman as, like, noted non-actor Dennis Rodman next to Van Damme, who's never been the greatest thespian out there,
you know
that it's not going to go well. And then you've got fucking Mickey Rourke, whose face at that time was in trouble.
Oh, Jesus.
Hadn't quite stooped to the level it's got to now.
No. I mean, he wasn't on The Masked Singer at that point.
You know what? He's the only contestant on The Masked Singer that people wish he left his mask on.
Oh, shit. Yeah. I think when he pulled the mask off, and they were like, well, underneath the fucking whatever, the Gremlins mask, we seem to have the fucking melting man or something. Oh, poor old Mickey.
Oh, this guy's got two masks on.
Yeah.
I wonder who it is.
Yeah, I think his performance also should have been they should have relabeled that episode the fucking Masked Cunt of a Singer, I think, because it was awful. It was absolutely awful.
Yeah, he had the double whammy. The only person they wish he didn't take his mask off, but also had his fucking throat ripped out.
Yeah.
They wish he'd been fucking debarked. Jesus.
Oh, man.
I played like 30 seconds of that clip and just went, oh my God, what am I listening to?
I thought...
It hurt my ears, Jared.
I thought that your career could not sink lower than being accused of setting up a boxing fight where the other bloke took a fall for you when you're fucking 65 years old or whatever he was. And then I saw his performance on the Masked Singer, and I thought... Mickey wishes that he was back in the halcyon days of setting up fucking sham boxing fights. Yeah, what though? If I remember correctly, when Mickey took his mask off, he looked pretty fucking chuffed with himself. I think he was pretty happy.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what he heard through the earpiece.
Oh my God. Well, obviously his ears aren't working either. So.
Yeah, but he's just found out recently he's deaf. God, I'm gonna put that shit on the fucking Facebook page.
Yeah, do it.
Oh, sorry, I got off tangent. Double Team from 97, $11 million in worldwide box office on a $30 million budget, a Rotten Tomatoes score of 11%, and 2.3 on Letterboxd, which is surprisingly robust for a Van Dam Rodman collaboration.
Yeah, that's right.
This film, for me, it basically tried to... It was one of those movies where they were trying to sort of overplot things. You know how the whole idea was that he was on something called... some sort of island of guys who sort of looked into terrorist actions and things like that? I mean...
It sounds like the Simpsons episode with Mr. X and all that sort of
shit. I think... It was. I mean, it's probably the only time I'll use overplotted in a Van Damme picture, but it was dense, you know. And then in comes fucking Rodman with his stilted acting. And I was just like, oh man, where are we?
The Dennis Rodman thing never really made sense fully to me because the guy was. I mean, again, we were people that watched basketball and were familiar with basketball at this time, even being at a distance from the States and at a time when you had to, you know, pick up Pro Basketball Today to read the basketball news rather than jumping on the internet. But his personality was always this loud kind of actions, but the bloke never really spoke. And when he did, he was very kind of quiet and short and sharp with his answers. So when the Dennis Rodman actor thing took hold, I was like, why? Because remember the guy used to, you know, he never really spoke to the media all that much and whatever. Then it was the dyeing of the hair and the, you know, the turning up in a wedding dress to marry himself and all that sort of stuff. But even all throughout that, whenever he spoke, it was just sort of short, kind of sharp, sort of, and I just thought,
I think
he's not an actor.
He was a personality that they wanted to sort of harness.
That's right.
So what better way to harness it, Jared, than attach it to Jean-Claude Van Damme?
That's right. I mean, I understand it was cashing in and putting him in an action movie was the thing to do because he was a big unit and he was, you know, he was an athlete. So that was a natural fit. But the guy never spoke. He never when you talk about, you start to think about him delivering lines and whatever. If you wanted him in a movie, it was the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Game of Death style thing, right? But they decided
Van Damme kicking his head in.
That's right, and him not talking. But they decided, no, we'll put him front and centre. that went away very quickly. I believe it was this, and then Simon Says, and that was about the end of it, wasn't it?
I think he had a TV show, didn't he?
Did he? I don't think so.
Just hang on, bear with me. I'll just see if I can find it. I'm pretty sure he had a TV show.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know why I'm sure of that, and I shouldn't be. So just bear with me for 1 second.
He wasn't on The Masked Singer, was he?
No. I don't think he was. Was he?
No.
Christ.
I hope not.
I mean, he would be better than Mickey, though.
Yeah. See, Rodman doing WCW, that was the smart choice, because you could use him as a wrestler without a lot of talking. You already had a bit of heat because he was an athlete, right? But when you start getting him in the movies and expecting him to act, that's not working out for me.
Yeah, mate, he was Soldier of Fortune, Inc.
Holy shit.
1998 to 99. 17 episodes.
Fuck.
How did they eke out 17 episodes of that? Who else was in there?
God.
Who was acting with him?
Can't have been anyone that valued their long-term prospects in Hollywood, surely.
Melinda Clark was in it.
Okay.
Brad Johnson. It was actually went for 37 episodes, but then he was only in 17 of them. I think someone worked out after 17 episodes, fuck, this guy's terrible.
Yeah, we better draft another soldier to take the.
Yeah. This guy doesn't look like a soldier's asshole. Let's get someone in who does. All right. The review I found says, exactly as bad as you'd imagine a Van Damme / Rodman collaboration to be.
Yeah, okay.
On to our final person. And again, a man who's we've kicked pretty hard
Deservedly
over
so.
the years. Deservedly so, yes. The man has he can't laugh at himself either.
No.
He's too serious for my liking. But Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
Jared, what's the worst thing Steven Seagal's dished up to you?
Well, I can't even recall the name of that one where he was a soldier that couldn't even be bothered to walk down the stairs for a shot. That is a contender
Honourable
for
mention?
sure. That's an honourable mention, but to not even be able to walk down the stairs for the directors and crew and whatever, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I've said that before, but the one for me, the one that stands out is Belly of the Beast. Adam, which was one of his sort of...
we're on the same page.
Yeah, it was one of his early sort of direct-to-video kind of... Well, not really early ones. I think it was about 2003, so it was sort of when he'd just become entrenched. I think this was the one where I finally looked at it and said, right, there's no coming back from here. And even up to 2003, for whatever reason, I still was like, yeah, I'll watch a Steven Seagal movie. This was the one where I finally I was tipped over the edge. I think it happened in about the first 10 minutes of the movie, where I would describe it as the infamous sequence, but, many people that have taste in movies probably wouldn't even know about it. But the infamous sequence where he is breaking into a house and does this sort of ninja slide across the floor. If you jump on YouTube and look Steven Seagal slide, I believe there's a clip of it on there, but him appearing to be sort of dragged across the floor attempting this kind of ninja slide is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life, and was precisely the moment where I came around to this thinking that Steven Seagal is a fucking idiot. So that's why Belly of the Beast is at the bottom of my list. There was no Rotten Tomato score for this one, but Letterboxd has it as a 2.3, and judging from some of the other ones that we saw, that's low enough. So
well, there were three. I've given it a 0 because there was 3 reviews and all of them were rotten. So I can only assume that's 0. Obviously, it didn't have enough to sort of cover the general thing, but it made $255,000 at the box office on an $8 million budget. And I do agree, Belly of the Beast was the one where he dipped into direct-to-video. He then started kind of working in Europe, overseas, Japan, Romania, all these places. And the plots of all of these films in a row around that time were all exactly the same. He was a fucking ex-CIA handler or some crap, and he was after someone, and someone got kidnapped. It was just bullshit.
Yeah.
And Belly of the Beast was exactly like you. I remember just thinking, I will not be watching anything more from Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
And I've held firm to that.
Yeah, look, I have dodged a lot of his work. As I said, I have gone back on the odd occasion, but I haven't been happy with generally any of it. I don't think I've enjoyed a Seagal flick for, I would say it's close to 20 years now.
Yeah. The last one I vaguely enjoyed was Exit Wounds.
Yeah, same.
And even that wasn't great upon rewatch.
No, that's right.
It wasn't great, but it was better than the majority of his shit.
Yeah, and it was
Under Siege.
As you said, it was heading in the right direction. But then, of course, whatever goodwill he sort of started to put together from that, he took and thought, I'm back in business here, and just started running his shit into the ground again.
Yeah. Yeah, and Belly of the Beast is definitely one of the worst exponents of that. The review that I found basically said from efilmcritic.com, it's not just that Seagal makes awful movies, it's that he makes the exact same awful movies over and over.
Yeah. I saw
and I think that's kind of where he got himself.
I saw the same one, and that was pretty much I was in agreement with that as well.
Because that was the case with this stuff he was making.
Yeah.
And again, it kind of has a Bruce Willis vibe in that he just wanted to make cheap movies that didn't tax his time that much, but made him plenty of money.
Yeah.
And that seems to be what he's doing, and Bruce Willis seems to be doing the same thing.
Yeah, well, and I mean, Bruce can still be bothered to walk on set for the majority of his shots, but
yeah, true.
Bruce has been sleepwalking as we mentioned, but Seagal's just, I mean, the guy just never had any shred of self-awareness, and Belly of the Beast was the turning point for me, even though it was long before that all of this stuff was clearly on display. This was the time where I was kind of getting old enough and wise enough to realise this guy's a bit of a fucking dill. So. Yeah, agreed. And it was just one of those. It was that period there where I just went, yeah, that's the end of that. That's the end of my association with Steven Seagal. I brushed him, and that's it. We were going to include Denzel, weren't we, Jared? But correct.
A quick look at Denzel's resume. There was just the only one I was angling for was Heart Condition, but I can't remember it very well.
No, that's right. I know
it's incredibly racist as well. I believe.
I haven't seen it. So, and I believe it was the only one of his films that was under 20 on Rotten Tomatoes, and the next one was John Q, which I didn't hate. So yeah, we had
surely Virtuosity's down there.
Well, we had to disqualify the man because even those ones had Rotten Tomato scores in the bloody 30s and 40s. So. I mean, the guy earned a pass.
He doesn't pick shit.
No,
that's basically it. He seems to be very picky and choosy about his products, and he always delivers.
He's good enough to elevate some of them.
Yes. And when we talked about this at one point with The Equalizer, that movie with a lesser actor is just a generic revenge film.
That's right. Learn the lesson, Willis. Like, if you turn up and you display your charisma, you turn it up to 11, Cosmic Sun might be a 1.5 instead of a half. Like,
Well, I don't think too much is fixing Cosmic Sin, but I mean, Willis should remember that, you know what, some time ago, mate, you could act.
Yeah. Willis should remember that
you have presence.
When you accept a contract, you agree to do a job. and that job is acting, not just turn up.
Yeah.
Not just
It's not being a grumpy prick and not wanting to be there.
Yeah, that's right.
Because anybody could do that, mate.
And that's why Denzel's.
I can pay a guy scale to do that shit.
Yeah, that's right. That's why Denzel, when you pay the money, you know, okay, well, even if the movie doesn't turn out as well as we want, it's going to be above 30 on Rotten Tomatoes because the guy's so good.
Yeah, but also Denzel wouldn't stoop that low.
No.
I reckon. What we'll see with Denzel is a little bit like what we saw with, say, Kevin Costner. He'll go into roles where father figure roles or mentor roles. In supporting roles. And that's what Costner did, and it fucking worked to great effect.
Yeah.
I mean, he has had a new lease of life
Somewhat.
in his career. Somewhat. When he stopped being a leading man and became a character actor, he's lengthened his career by 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas guys like Willis, you know, they were stars, and like Arnie and, I mean, even Sly to some degree. He's been the most successful at it, but Willis and Arnie specifically, they haven't done that. They've just gone to, you know, grabbing easy money parts.
Yeah.
With little effort required, which is sad because they were both guys who could put bums on seats.
Yeah, true. It's like an athlete, mate, adjusting to the role as you lose your touch.
Yeah. You're no longer a great sort of, say, using basketball as an analogy. You can't jump out of the stadium. You can't run the floor like a gazelle, but you can do other things. If you step back and know how to fill the holes,
yeah, you can still contribute.
You can be very useful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
But these guys don't seem to be that keen on that.
No.
I mean, fuck, I was this close when I was looking at Artie's list, I thought for sure you'd be going for killing Gunther. No.
Fuck, yeah, that was a disaster, but he wasn't in it long enough to stick that all on him. At least Sly has learnt that. I mean, you look at Creed and Creed 2, that's what it is, right? He's adjusted. But then, again, the ego got overinflated and here's Last Blood, so... Yeah. Yeah. Sly's kind of self-aware enough to know in some cases, but in other cases, you know, he especially with the Rambo franchise, he's probably hasn't. I don't feel he's properly handled the Rambo franchise. No.
As well as he handled Rocky.
No, I don't think so.
He handled Rocky really well, apart from Rocky 5.
Yeah. So what we
even
need,
Rocky 4, which I think is not good, but still, it was back then in that period of time. It was well received.
Yeah. Rambo needs a protege. That's what we've learned.
Yeah. Mini Rambo. But I believe that Michael B. Jordan's going to direct the third Creed, just on a bit of news front.
He is.
So it'll be interesting to see whether Rocky returns.
Yeah.
For that.
I don't think he had planned to, but who knows? You never know. He might do him a favour and jump back in.
Yeah. Might be it'll be interesting to see the series round out with a third film.
Yeah.
But that's it, Jared. That's our worst of our favourites. Obviously, Flash Gordon is coming up. We'll get Maddie back on board for Flash Gordon not in the next week. But until then, take it easy and we'll catch up with everyone later. Cheers. Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.